You're listening to Joy Coaching America with the Joy Coach, Karen Lynn Grant, spreading upbeat, uplifting, informative messages of hope and happiness from sea to shining sea, from our home in the beautiful Rocky Mountains.
Welcome to Joy Coaching America. This is Karen Lynn Grant, and today, we have got a really fun and informative program for you. I will be interviewing Hannah Stoddard, who is an author. She is a homeschooled 26-year-old that is continuing education and continuing to bless families across America and beyond. But in addition to Hannah being here today, we have 3 of her siblings. Hannah is the oldest of 10 children, 9 living, but we also have Leah and Isaiah and Ephraim here with us today. And I just want your brothers and sister to say hi. So come close and tell us a little bit about you. Okay, Leah?
Yeah, my name's Leah Stoddard. I'm Hannah Stoddard's younger sister, and I'm kind of helping out with the Joseph Smith Foundation, and I do the graphic design and designing books and the websites and helping with the animations for videos and stuff. So we're all working together as a team to kind of accomplish this vision. So
wow, and was this your father's original vision and he's passed on?
Yes.
But you're just taking over. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Well, that is wonderful. And for 23 and knowing everything you know and doing all you do, that is amazing.
She's
Leah.
amazing.
That's awesome. Thank you. And Isaiah or Ephraim, come up here.
Hi, my name's Ephraim Stoddard, and I just work with the rest of my brothers and sisters on the Joseph Smith Foundation. Mostly my role is making sure everything running smoothly, and I do some of the transcribing and captions work with Premiere Pro and all the videos.
Wow, you guys, you know so much. You're automated, digitized, and amazing to do all of this. That's so wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, and my name is Isaiah, and I do like the computer stuff. I help lay out the books and also help run our sites. So
this is amazing. Well, thank you so much, Leah and Isaiah and Ephraim. Thank you for being here and supporting your sister, Hannah. Well, Hannah, I've heard a lot about you. I've had so many people say, have you heard of Hannah Stoddard? Have you seen what she's created and done? And it's so nice to know that this is like a full family project. And
definitely a family effort. Could not do it alone.
That's so awesome. I would love for you to tell me, Hannah, about your father and give us a picture of your dad. What was your dad like?
Okay, so he just passed away a couple of weeks ago, so hopefully I don't.
Oh, wow.
Hopefully, I don't get too emotional here.
Well, you can.
Yes. So he started studying church history and doctrine when he was 11 years old, actually, for hours a day. In fact, I was talking to one of his friends, and he was like, "I remember when Jimmy got that like passion for reading, and he was like skipping out on baseball games and like going to study." And so he just was studying. And when he got home from a mission, he got introduced to David Barton's work. I don't know if you happen to see, David Barton was a lawyer who gave up his entire career to help people understand that the foundations of America were spiritual and Christian, like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. And they were all, those Christian foundations. And he was like, I got to restore that. So my dad got introduced to his work. He went to BYU, and then he got married, had a family, so he's like pittering along, trying to make an income. But in the back of his mind, he was like,
his passion,
just burning, wanting people to know what he had learned, because he always told us growing up, he was like, the gospel has the solution for every problem. And people are just searching through life and they don't know what to do. And he's like, the answers are right there. So he was a very out of the box thinker. And so he was a high school teacher and then went into software, but we were all home educated. And so he had this vision where he was like, everything you do is going to be cause-based. So everything needs to have a purpose. So if we're working on school, we're not going to do dumb worksheets. We're just going to throw away.
Awesome.
We're going to do something that can help someone. And so everything was going to be cause-based. So he the first thing he always repeatedly told us was, you got to focus out, not in. And that became almost like a little catchphrase in our home: focus out, not in. Meaning, if you're learning for yourself, if you're learning for your own career, your own dreams, then there's so much more you should be thinking. So we would watch tons of movies about Mother Teresa,
I love that.
Christians being persecuted in other countries, and he would pause it all the way through every movie. I don't think we ever watched a movie without it getting paused all the way through. And because he'd stop it and talk and be like, okay, did you notice this? Did you notice that? How could you help in this situation? Notice how
He had you liken it to yourself.
Right. And so we grew up just knowing so much about history and government. And then he said, we want to take this out to the world. How are we going to do this? Let's do a website. So at 11 and 10 years old, my brother and I were like trying to figure out how to do a website and trying to figure out how to, let's do a database. Let's do an interactive timeline that families can do, like a homeschool timeline. And then we had a shift in our family in 2005. He had a job change and felt like he was supposed to go into video. And so he started studying how to do video. He'd never touched a camera before, but started learning how to do video from home. And of course, all of us were included in that. And it was like, okay, let's figure out how to run a movie. So
every time he learned something new, he taught the rest of you how to do it.
Absolutely. Or included us with him. So he would be like, I don't know how to fix this. Let's see if both of us can figure it out. And we're like, yeah, oh Dad, try this. Oh, it worked. Okay. So it was very engaging. It was very productive. And we felt from day one, as young as I can remember, like we were doing something to help the world. So,
where was your mom in all of this?
Yeah, so she was a big part in helping with that. And so he just had such a strong vision for
getting the truth out.
And so
untangling the misperceptions that people have.
Right. And just helping build up. He always said, if we're ever tearing down, we're doing the wrong thing. We need to just lift and build. So we did our first documentary in 2013.
Was that your dad videoing?
Yeah. So we actually had a studio in the basement, and we had all sorts of people in it, from Scott Bradley to Tim Ballard to so he would go take us to meet these different people. And he was always like, we're going to do a very professional job. So I don't think many people know that it was a group of kids and their dad in the basement that made those documentaries, because they're actually, you can see on.
So what was the name of the documentary with Tim Ballard?
So the first one was 4-Day Covenant on the Land.
Say that again.
4-Day Covenant on the Land.
Okay.
And that one you can find it on Amazon, Deseret Book Online. And then the second one was 4-Day Divinely Sanctioned Governments. And I want to talk about both of those in maybe the next segment here. Yes. But and then went on to do 8 documentaries, 3, soon to be 4 books.
Oh, I'm so excited to watch them all.
Awesome. Yes.
That is so fun.
And so so then we started going to conferences and speaking with it, but all along the way, he was always thinking, like, how can we figure out how to help more people? How can we reach more people? How do we, so we really got to see one-on-one that intimate picture of how to have a mission, how to have a cause, how to pursue that. And we saw it touch people's lives. So I can remember being 16, 17, you're sitting at a table in Expo, and someone comes up literally in tears and they're like, this changed my life, or I was at your presentation 6 months ago, and this is my story. And it just started realizing, wait, there's a lot of people hurting in the world, but we can help a lot of people. And so that set us on a vision. One of the aspects of the Joseph Smith Foundation is helping more families get jump started. And actually, we have a lot of families that work with us that are now doing the same thing. So the parents and their kids are all working together on projects and focusing out, not in, and being mission centered.
Wow, that is so thrilling and exciting. So sounds like you all got sent to this family because you had natural talents and abilities and a cause in your spirits before you ever got here, to just combine your efforts, your talents, your gifts and strengths, and start young and get it done, right?
Right, exactly. I really feel like God does send families in the right ways for a reason.
It's like the Osmonds. They all sing and dance.
Right.
You guys teach, educate, mentor, and spread
But
truth.
I don't want to make it sound like it was easy. Everyone would always tell us, oh, you guys are so lucky. You're so talented. And I was like, yeah, if you could see the behind the scenes, it's blood, sweat, and tears, right? To get to the victory, it's not easy. But it was so good. All of us siblings learning to work with each other. And
all the different personalities.
Yes, because we're all so different. So learning how to do that and learning how, honestly, it would have been a lot easier for my dad to just went and hired a professional video team.
Well, now he's got how many video experts? He's got a whole bunch.
Yes.
If you would have hired someone, you wouldn't have learned. You would have missed that opportunity. So your father was young when he passed away.
Yeah. So he just recently passed away from stage 4 lung cancer.
Really?
And so.
How old was he?
He was 50.
So young.
Yes.
Wow. He had to work fast with you guys and get you all up and going.
Yeah. Yes.
That's amazing.
We definitely felt like it was his time to go. We felt complete peace about that. But now we felt like that's shifted to our shoulders now. And my siblings that were just here. And I just really feel like, okay, we got to push this through, so that's, I think, the power of a multi-generational legacy, kind of like you see this in the Bible where Abraham passes on a vision to Isaac, and Isaac passes it on to Jacob, and Jacob passes it on to Joseph, and all the way down,
And all of your names are biblical.
From sea to shining sea and beyond, you're listening to Joy Coaching America Worldwide with show host and Joy Coach, Karen Lynn Grant.
Welcome back to Joy Coaching America. And Hannah Stoddard is with us today. We just were introduced to 3 of her 9 siblings. And so that was really fun. And we were going over how your father started this incredible legacy, a multi-generational legacy, and taught his children, or you all maybe taught him, or you all learned together how to do the video production and everything you're doing. And what a wonderful energy and synergy that your family has going. So I'd love for you to share with us the names of all of your siblings, because I noticed that they're all biblical. So why don't you share with us all the names of your family?
Yes, they are. So one of the things that my dad always taught us when we were young is do everything with intention. So even the decorations in our home and everything, he was thinking about, what messages am I sending my kids? And so I'm the oldest, I'm Hannah. And then there's James, Leah, Asel, which is a less known biblical name, but it is biblical. And then Joseph, he passed away when he was just young. But Joseph, and then Isaiah, Ephraim, Mary, Ezra, and Eliza.
Wow. Well, that is incredible. And I love that. I've written CDs of women in the scriptures. And so I've written a song for Hannah. I'll have to give you a CD, and
Wonderful.
one for Leah. So we'll have to give one to your sister. But this is really exciting, the work that you're doing. And you're all so young to be carrying on this legacy. And your father passed away at age 50.
Mm-hmm.
And so he worked hard and fast to spread his contagious joy and enthusiasm for this mission. Yeah. And why don't you share the website with everybody here?
So the website is thejosephsmithfoundation.org. Is the main website. And then we have some other projects. One other project we have is called Highland Cathedral Estate, which is actually an 11.5-acre farm we have down in Sandpeat. And our vision there is we want to create a family retreat. He started that too, and we're going to finish it.
Wow.
But it's like a family retreat, a place for families to come down and see self-sufficiency in action, unplug from technology, reconnect with their kids, just reconnect in nature. So that's another project that we're working on. But the main thing that always drove my dad, and he kind of passed that on to us, is this focus of saying, how can we help other people? Like, there are people suffering in the world. How can we make a difference? And each of us, I believe, has a way that we can make a difference that's unique, and every one of us is so needed. And so that really helped us even with our names. He would tell us, I gave you those names so that when you hear your name, you're going to remember who you were named after, and you can become like them, become like Hannah, become like Isaiah, become like Ephraim, and really study and take that on as an identity. So it helped us really feel, he always told us, he would take us around at 9, 10, 11. So we felt like we were important. We weren't just these nuisances running the house like, oh, if I can just get my kids to grow up and move out of the house, then I can do my mission. We never felt that way. It was always, you guys are my mission. You guys are my team.
That is so wonderful. What an amazing man.
He was
I would
absolutely
love to
incredible.
I love hearing about him. What a great example.
Yes.
As a parent, as a father.
We had so many people when he passed at his funeral, just watching his funeral and writing me letters. This is what he did, and this story, and this story. So many stories that I had never even heard before, even though we've all worked so closely with him.
And I love that each one of your siblings has a strength and a gift to offer to the whole multi-generational legacy. Yeah, that every single member of your family feels essential and significant, irreplaceable and valuable in this mission. That's so important for not one to be left behind and not one to feel left out. So you have written books. You are 26 years old. You are an author. Would you share with us the books that you have written?
Yeah. So in addition to the 8 documentaries, there are 3 books. So the first book I wrote was titled Seer Stone v. Urim and Thummim, Book of Mormon Translation on Trial. And for those who are Latter-day Saints, it's basically an investigation into, a lot of people are struggling with faith crisis about how did the translation occur. Did Joseph Smith use a seer stone? Did he use the Urim and Thummim? Did he use both? So what we do is we put the whole issue on trial, and we go into all of the original sources, every single one, and we investigate.
When you say we...
Oh, yes. Well, I guess my father and I are the co-authors of the book, and then we had a team of researchers. So I always think in we, because again, it was a whole family team. So we did it.
Well, and it's wonderful. I just, Stoddard and Stoddard is the name on the book.
That's
so
right.
Both of you together. And then what is your other 2 books?
And then the other 2 books are Faith Crisis Volume 1 and Faith Crisis Volume 2. And basically that is an investigation into how history has been intentionally changed, that there's been a war between traditionalist and progressive history. So traditionalist history, whether you're speaking of Christian history, American history, Latter-day Saint history, you have traditionalist values, and that's kind of the original moorings. In the Latter-day Saint faith, that would be the original foundation laid by Joseph Smith, Brigham Young, and others. And then if you're talking from a nation standpoint, it would be the original founding fathers, Pilgrims, Puritans, right? So you have this traditionalist foundation. And then what we saw during the late 1800s and the early 1900s was a progressive infiltration to change our history, because if you change the history, you can change the doctrine. You can change an entire culture just by changing history. We saw this when Mao went into China. He changes their history, because if he can remove that identity, all of a sudden he can give them a new identity, and they don't even know who they once were. So that's really significant. So Faith Crisis Volume 1 and Volume 2 is about how that progressive change of history has actually led to the biggest faith crisis we have seen in the last 400 years.
And did you, with the Faith Crisis books, the 2 volumes, do you talk about world history or American history being changed?
So we focus primarily on Latter-day Saint history, but there is a volume that we're working on, Volume 3 or 4. It's being debated which comes first in the series. But the fascinating thing is the agenda to change American history actually paralleled the agenda to change Latter-day Saint history. A lot of times it was the same people. So Fawn Brodie was a very famous anti-Mormon. She's the one that wrote No Man Knows My History, attacking Joseph Smith's character. Well, she was also the one that wrote the biography on Thomas Jefferson, attacking Thomas Jefferson's character and kind of popularizing the idea that he had that affair with Sally Hemings, which if someone is wondering about that, please check out the book, The Jefferson Lies by David Barton. That the idea that Thomas Jefferson had an affair has been completely debunked. And Thomas Jefferson's one of my favorite founding fathers, so I have to stick up for him there.
That's awesome.
But
you have 5 founding fathers. You've got your 4 founding fathers and your dad. Well, it's interesting because my father worked for the Huntington Beach school system. So he purchased all of the history books. He purchased everything. And he was a patriot in his time up to 3 months before he passed. He was teaching for Act for America and just speaking out. But one of the things that I know that he was trying to tell his children is all about the rewriting of history and Common Core and all of that. And so that was a huge thing for my dad too. And so I can totally appreciate what your father felt and what you have felt and what you've put into your 2 books, Faith Crisis 1 and 2. I'm excited to hear about what Faith Crisis 3 and or 4 are going to be about.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
I think a lot, as I can mention one thing before we go into the next segment, a lot of people think they have to commit intellectual suicide to have faith or believe in a faith-filled history. And actually, it's the opposite. Real history, real facts, real data actually supports faith.
Well, that is so exciting. And I also want you to give your website out one more time so that anybody who's just hopping on now, you can hear that I am interviewing Hannah Stoddard, age 26, who is passing on a legacy with her siblings, 8 of whom are alive, and doing a wonderful job picking up the baton and moving forward in this multi-generational legacy that they're working on together with your website. And go ahead and share that, Hannah.
Yes, it is josephsmithfoundation.org. And my email is out there if people have any questions or want more information.
Okay, give your email. Just in case.
It is hannah.josephsmithfoundation@gmail.com.
Okay, well, I'm very excited to hear the titles and the names of your 8 documentaries. And we've heard in the first segment that this was a project that your father took on with your siblings and yourself. So we're excited to hear the titles and the names of those. You can get these documentaries, I would assume, from your website. And we will be right back. This is Karen Lynn Grant, Joy Coaching America.
Welcome to the Loving Liberty Radio Network.
Welcome back to Joy Coaching America, raising the world's vibration to love, joy, and peace, one happy listener at a time.
Welcome back to Joy Coaching America. This is Karen Lynn Grant interviewing Hannah Stoddard. And Hannah, I'm looking at this beautiful array of product that we have sitting here with us. And I know that we just went over Faith Crisis Volumes 1 and 2 and the other book that you wrote, and that people, you can go to the website, and Hannah will be sharing that again at the end of this segment. But you have 8 documentaries, and we would love to hear a little bit about each documentary and what each one is about, and how long did it take to create each documentary. And so, like, I'm sure each one is a different time frame, but that's fascinating to me to see what goes into creating a documentary. It is not easy, I'm sure. So please feel free to share with us.
Yes. So the 8 documentaries that we produced, and again, it was my dad working with us in the studio, but we all told each other, we were like, no one could know who was behind making these. So we worked really, really hard. And that was something my dad always emphasized, is he was like, only the best for the Lord. So if we're going to do this, we're going to do a good job, and it's going to be professional, or we're just not going to do it at all.
Wow.
You know, we're not going to do a slop over job. And so we really tried. I mean, it was very the way to engage youth is by giving them a cause. So many people are, they'll come up to me, parents, and they'll be like, I'm doing my scripture study with my kids every day, and I homeschool, and I'm trying to get them, and they're just zoned out, like they could care less. And I'm like, yeah, because they don't see how it has to do with their real life.
It's not applicable.
Right. But if you can engage them in a cause and say, look, freedom is under attack and you can do something about it, or the family's under attack, get out there and do something about it, right? And instead of doing worthless worksheets for English, let's write a paper and let's practice learning how to speak, and let's go out and make a YouTube video and get views,
just go do it.
Just go do it. So that was the focus that we had as a family, is how are we going to go out and make a difference? And so the first documentary, and honestly, each of these topics we did through praying as a family, like, what are we supposed to do next? But the first documentary is all about the covenant on the land. So the Pilgrims, the Puritans, and how they were Christian.
I'm excited.
No, it was so fun working on every one of these projects. We got to get into the actual Pilgrim journals and seeing the miracles that they talked about, how they felt like they were Israel and why they came to America and what their passion was, stories that no one has ever heard.
That is so amazing. How did you find these journals?
That was what we did. We learned how to do primary source research. We learned how to go look up archives and go look up diaries, and how you don't do a secondhand source. You go figure out, well, what's the original source where they got that from? It was good because a funny story in one of the video sections, I wanted to put some story in there, and my dad was like, have we checked the source on that? And I was like, well, I think it's legit. It came from some other researcher. He was like, we need to check the original source. And then come to find out, it didn't have a primary source that went back to the original. It was kind of a secondhand story. So it was like, we're throwing it out. My dad was really big on primary sources. Like, does it check out?
That is great.
So we learned how to check everything, cross every T, dot every I, which was so good. It was literally like a college internship program.
And you were how old taking this college internship?
Right. Well, so I was 17 when we were doing the first documentary, 16, 17. And then we did one every year after that. So it took a few years, kind of, we were laying the groundwork for all of them. And then we did about 1 to 2 a year.
So do they pick up where the last one left off?
They're all pretty independent.
Okay.
So you can just pick up what you're
So
interested in.
it doesn't matter if you don't have to watch 1 through 6 to watch 7.
Nope. So the second documentary we did was 4-Day Divinely Sanctioned Governments. And that documentary is the one that gave me my passion for liberty. Like, before, I'd been like, I don't really care because picketing at the Capitol sounds really boring. I want to go and I want to fight for the family. I want to restore music or media. And that was the documentary, actually getting in and studying unalienable rights and federalism and seeing how the foundations of America were all Christian and all of it was based in the Bible. That completely changed my heart to where I was like, this is a Christian cause and I'm going to give my life for it. And I bleed red, white, and blue now. And so I went from not really caring to tearing up every time I hear the Star Spangled Banner. And I'm definitely a patriot now. So
that is so
beautiful. That's the power of engaging youth in a cause.
And not just giving them a homework assignment that does not matter, but giving them a homework assignment with a cause attached to it.
Because we had to do this documentary. It's going to be an hour and a half. We had to get it done. And then we were going to have to present it at expos. And we were going to have to figure out, how are we going to show this in an engaging way, and what music do we put behind it, and what animation. So, and it was all of us working together as a team. So it was very exciting, and
I can't wait to watch it.
A lot of hard work too. I'm not going to lie. There were a lot of blood, sweat, and tears too along the way.
I believe you. Well, it's very exciting. And I love this principle of giving appropriate assignments with an outcome.
Right. Yes.
So that's beautiful. So tell us what number 3 is about.
So the 3 is statesmen and symbols. And the first part of it is all about symbolism found throughout the world, why the founding fathers were engaged in masonry. Sometimes that's like makes people feel uncomfortable, but we actually go into early Christian archaeology over in the Middle East and show really all they were doing is feeling connected with symbols and rights that the early Christians had. Yes. And they were bringing that to America, statesmen and symbols. And then the second half of the documentary is all about John Adams and Thomas Jefferson and the story, how they were best friends. Then they became bitter enemies. And then one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence actually had a dream where he saw that the two of them were going to become friends again and that they were going to write letters back and forth. So Benjamin Rush, the signer, goes and tells John Adams, like, hey, work this out. You and Thomas Jefferson work this out. And they became best friends again. So we tell that story. They ended up dying on the same day, July 4th, 1826. It was the 50-year jubilee. And then we go into all the symbolism. It's so rich. Like literally God was teaching through symbolism, through the deaths and the lives of those two signers, what the purpose for America was. So we go into their letters and we talk about their deaths and the stories, and it's absolutely amazing. It just shows you God had a hand in our nation. And that in turn gives you a passion where when you see it being attacked, whether it's through critical race theory or whatever, you're like, absolutely not. Like that is sacred, beautiful history that we need to defend. So that was a fun documentary. Then we have 2 documentaries after that, just about last days prophecy and Joseph Smith for Latter-day Saints. That's Prophet Joseph More Than We Know, and then Unlocking the Mystery of the Two Prophets. Then we have a documentary on Hidden Blood called Hidden Bloodlines. It's about the Grail and the lost tribes up in Europe and some different evidences there. And then one that will be for more Latter-day Saints Nephites in Europe. And there is actually evidence that Nephites traveled to Europe and that some people with fair skin may be descendants of Nephites and they just don't know it.
And so that's all provable through DNA testing, right?
You'd have to find the Nephite DNA strand, which that's still under investigation, but through linguistic evidence and archaeological evidence and actual records that they have over there that seem to parallel, showing contact between the old world and the new world. Anyway.
So how much of all of this research that went in, because we haven't finished all the documentaries yet, have we? Do we still have 2 after those 2?
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes. So there are 2 more. There's the Nephites in Japan, one about evidence for Israel in Japan that we're working on. It hasn't quite come out yet, but it's almost done. And then there was one that was at the very beginning, just on creation and evolution, helping Christians reconcile that with their faith.
Well,
so those were the 2 I forgot.
That is necessary. Mm-hmm. So necessary. Well, this is amazing. And I love your enthusiasm. And I wanted to ask this question. So in all the creation of these 8 DVDs that you have, how did all of the children go help find the information that went on the DVDs as part of their school projects, their homeschooling projects?
Absolutely. Now, over the years, right, some of them were 2. So the 2-year-old maybe wasn't quite as involved in their research as now.
That's right.
But as soon as they're old enough,
as soon as they were 4, they were on a project.
Yes. No, I can tell you, my 11-year-old brother Ezra, literally even this past year, as my dad was struggling through stage 4 lung cancer and couldn't get out of bed, Ezra would sit there by his bed and they would be watching videos on science and right there. Ezra is like my right-hand guy on so many research projects, and Mary has helped. She's a 13-year-old. And so they all feel like they have a part in this and that it's not just, Dad's projects or now Hannah's projects, but they're all part of it and they want to be.
Well, this is amazing and such a great example for every family to find a cause. Mm-hmm. To find a cause and then to structure the things that you study about, the things you talk about at the dinner table, have a dinner time and talk about it, and create a family unity and develop a cause for your family. This is amazing. We'll be right back with more Joy Coaching America with Hannah Stoddard.
Welcome back to Joy Coaching America, raising the world's vibration to love, joy, and peace, one happy listener at a time.
This is Karen Lynn Grant, Joy Coaching America. Today's interview with Hannah Stoddard has been super informative and so exciting. If you are a parent out there and you have been listening to Hannah, she's spoken on the subject of an intergenerational family project that has become 8 DVDs and 3 books going on 2 more, you might want to just ask some questions. And the question that I will ask for all of us is, Hannah, what do you feel parents can do to inspire their children into a greater love of liberty and to starting your own family project with your own purpose, calling, and mission?
Yes. Okay, well, I love talking on this subject because I love seeing a family go from falling apart to engage. And I've seen so many families that I could bring so many families in here to tell their story, just so many good stories. But these are just 3 things right off the top of my head when I think, okay, if someone's like, how do I awaken my youth? The first thing is they need to have a cause. And they can't have a cause that's just working at a soup kitchen or picking up trash. They need to feel like they need to understand what's going on in the world, and then they need to understand that they can do something about it, and it's not wait until I'm 20. So that was something that my dad would always tell us. He would say the education system is so messed up in America. We go to kindergarten so we can go to we go to preschool to go to kindergarten, we go to kindergarten to go to middle school, and then we go to high school, and then we go to high school so we can go to college, and we go to college so we can go get a master's degree, and then we go to get a master's.
And we never arrive, do we?
And we never arrive. And then ultimately, if you ever do arrive, it's go make money, and then keep making money and try to keep up with the bills, and eventually retire, go on a few vacations, and die, right?
How many people really find their passion and their purpose and their cause that they are so devoted to?
And so many times I'll sit down with a millennial my age and be like, well, what's your mission in life? Like, what's going on? And they'll look at you like, whoa, like, what do you mean? I don't know.
I would say, Hannah, you're ahead of your years, but at the same time, maybe a lot of people are just behind, because finding your purpose, your calling, and your mission can happen at a very young age. I discovered mine at age 14, going on 15.
That's when I found mine too.
Oh my gosh. And I thought, you know what? I came out of an experience with the power of prayer that changed my life. And I committed to God that if He would give me the answer to the question that I was asking that morning, it took me 6 hours on my knees to get the answer. Maybe He was waiting to see if I was serious. But finally, when I started to cry and say, I really need to know this, and if I can get this answer, my life will be different. And it will be different than what it might have been. And if we could encourage 14-year-olds to do that, to pray mightily, it's amazing. You have the time, 14-year-olds, you have the time to pray mightily, where parents are running around doing their day jobs and they're taking care of their families. So really encouraging the youth is a huge and important thing.
Absolutely. And one of the ways my dad would do that is, again, I mentioned this earlier, watching movies, but we'd watch I think some of the biggest were the ones on Mother Teresa. There's 2 really good motion pictures on Mother Teresa. Then there's a book called The Heavenly Man. It's about really the founding of the underground Christian church movement in China. And it is absolutely amazing.
Where do you find that?
You can download the audiobook on christianaudio.com. I think it's on Audible too. But that book, literally, I have never given that book to somebody that they didn't come back having listened to it 2 or 3 times, and they said that changed their life.
Tell everybody the title of that book.
It's The Heavenly Man by Brother Yun, Y-U-N.
And has that been turned into a documentary or a movie yet?
Not yet, but I so want to make it into a movie.
You and your siblings can take that one on.
My dad actually always told us, he was like, I want to make that book into a documentary. Wow. So maybe we'll do that part of his legacy too.
That can be number 9.
That's right. So give them a cause, help them see, there are people in Hong Kong right now who are protesting for their freedom, and they're being silenced. There are people all over Europe or Afghanistan. Okay, what can we do about it? And we need to do something about it. We will be accountable before God for what we do or do not do. So give them a cause. The second thing is to unite the family. If the family can work together, and this is really hard because a lot of marriages are so dysfunctional, but if the father and the mother can be united, and the father can be involved, the mom cannot do it by herself. It's just way too hard, especially if it's teenage boys. They need the dad in there who says, guys, we're doing this. Let's go.
It's very true. You're very true. I had a 13-year marriage where I thought we were on the same page. I thought we had a common cause in getting married. And when there is not a strong supporter,
It's so hard.
you end up spending all of your time just being in emotional survival and
Yes.
feeling like, oh, I'm just spinning my wheels because we can't get to our purpose, calling, and mission
Yes.
because we're too busy focusing on all the things we don't agree on.
Yeah.
And so
that's
cheers
actually
well.
That's actually another project that myself and some single girls are working on right now, is principles and resources to help young men and young women be careful in the dating world and things like that. But
it's really true. I was just telling my husband, we've been married 5.5 years, and I told him yesterday, if I wonder what life would have been like had we found each other with our everything in common, everything purpose, calling, and mission driven.
And I don't fault people, because honestly, this is a whole nother subject for another interview, is dating and relationships. But
it's so
our
true.
world is so distorted by Hollywood, and we really it's just focused on lust instead of love. And so it's really hard. There's kids out there and they just don't know what they're doing. So that's a whole nother battle line. If someone needs a cause, take that one on. But the other thing is standards. Youth need higher standards. So this was something that was absolutely central to our family. Our family would have never been able to do the things that we did if my dad had not kept our media standards and lifestyle standards as high as he did. And he took a lot of flack for it because people would think we were weird. So he started when he was very young. He was studying different teachings of the presidents of the LDS Church. There's actually Christian resources on this too. He just got started from the LDS standpoint, but they taught that music with a backbeat or rock music actually was detrimental. And he didn't understand that as a teenager and a college student, but he decided to go out on faith. And then later he found all of the science that actually supports that you can actually help youth. I've seen youth saved from suicide, youth get out from teenage rebellion and completely have a change of heart. Literally, you don't even recognize them when they get their music cleaned up. Movies, the highest standard movies. He would always ask, it's not about what's bad in it, it's what's good in it. Like, what good is it? Why would we be watching it? And so we started Zion Tube. It's on our website. It's a compilation of all the good movies that we could find.
That is wonderful.
Yeah, because
just everything that's uplifting, inspiring.
Yes. And there are so many good movies that nobody even knows about. Like, I just rewatched one of them called On the Wings of Eagles. It's the sequel to Chariots of Fire. The rest of the story to Eric Liddell. Absolutely amazing. Like, every family needs to watch that movie. It will change your life. So there's just so many movies. They're just not on the top Hollywood.
So is this just a list of movies, or is it actual place where you can download?
So on some of them you can watch online, and then some you just have to link over to Amazon.
Okay, so you just go find them, but you give a great
so you can just
movie therapy list.
Yes,
that's awesome.
So movies, the even better dances, just a focus on living consecrated and in the home, not having sibling fighting, but having unity, just cleaning up our lifestyle, just not being afraid to be good. When my dad was young, he heard a speaker, and the speaker came up and he said, I'm trying to remember how old my dad was. He's not here. I can't ask him. I know it's in one of his journals somewhere, but and the speaker said, when you get old, you're never going to look back at your life and say, I wish I hadn't have been so good. Like, why was I so nice? Or I just really just lived too good of a life. I should have just, you never ever say that. You always look back and say, I wish I'd done better. So he said, don't let anyone tell you you're being too good. Be proud of being good. And I see people kind of get ashamed, like, well, if I'm proud of being good, then maybe I'm like pharisaical or prideful. No, let's show people the joy and the beauty. Like, literally, I can say, if our family had not had those standards in our home, if we'd been listening to the music everyone else was listening to, eating the food that everyone else was eating, and we would not have done these documentaries. There's just no way. You have to live pure. Power comes from purity. And that was what my dad taught us. He was someone who never touched pornography his entire life, which is almost unheard of. But he told us, he was like, that's possible. Let's aim for being good.
As I listened to you, I remember thinking after age 14, when I had my answer to prayer, after that, I thought, I don't have time to be bad.
Yes.
There's no time to waste.
Yes.
There's so much good that I can do. There's just no time.
No time.
There's no time to have to, not only do you have to take time to go do the wrong thing, then you have to take the time to make the U-turn and do all the repentance work. And then if it has become an addiction, you have to go through the process of getting unaddicted. And so there is just only time to get as much, squeeze as much good into our lives.
And if you're listening to so much good music and watching good movies, again, that it's like eating real food versus the Twinkies. The Twinkies lose their appeal when you actually have real, genuine food, and it's the same.
It's so true. Well, this is so exciting. Now, as we are wrapping up this show, this has gone so fast, but as we are wrapping up the show, we have just a minute and a half left. I would love for you've loved watching Mother Teresa, I'm sure Joan of Arc, Florence Nightingale. I loved all of those too at 14. Would you just give a message straight from your heart to families and youth and wind up this show for us today?
My message would be, God works through families. If you look through history, God rarely works just through one individual. Sometimes we see one individual like Isaac Newton or William Tyndale, but if you actually get into the history, it was a family effort, and it was a family that gave them that. And so if families could just remember, God works through families, and God has a mission for every family. No one was called into this world to be mediocre. And please get down on your knees and pray and just say, God, why did you put our family on this earth? And I promise you, if you are sincere, God will speak to you. We need families to rise up and make a difference and change the world.
Thank you, Hannah Stoddard. This was a beautiful, beautiful radio show. It will become a podcast, and you'll be able to add it to your website if you'd like. We are so excited to be here. Joy Coaching America. This is Karen Lynn Grant signing off.